Namaste everyone.
Namaskaram all,
I'm Simple Raj.
and I'm simply Lulu, and welcome to the third episode of our podcast.
The third episode of our podcast is continuation of our last episode, Simlingo Part 2, where we'll be talking about basic terminologies in simulation and acronyms and as such. And before we even start, we'd like to apologize for the prolonged gap between our first and part 2 episode. I know this is the worst time to have a break because you're talking about two important topics. But as it goes, December, November, and January are peak conference season. And I've been held up in a few events. Luma has been held up in a few events, ma'am.
Yes, yes. And it's not just a peak conference event. It is when, our children have holidays and it is a holiday season and vacation. So we need to spend a little time with our family also. And unfortunately, myself and Raj have certain personal health issues which we had to, take a break for. So, Raj, I think it's a story with everyone, right? And especially I've seen it with most simulation enthusiasts, confidentiality maintained, but of most of the simulation enthusiasts, which I found is, they kind of juggle between their parent fraternity or their professional discipline, their passion for simulation, their family, and the health issues. So they kind of just juggle everything, and I think both of us felt the brunt of that during this December Jan, that we couldn't even get to sit together to complete our podcast, right?
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah, and we've spoken about this too. Back when I was practicing emergency medicine, the boundary was very clear. You hand over and you're done. Your shift is done, and you go home and you unclip from work. But with simulation, I think we carry a lot of our simulation work home. We constantly talk about simulation.
Yeah,
We think about simulation. It's blended so deeply into our personal lives. I can't imagine
yeah.
another life without simulation. So, yeah,
No, no, that is because we are so passionate, it's not just the mind, it's the heart. Okay.
yeah,
So it just, we are always trying to think of new ideas, discussing, networking, that innovation and creation is just, flowing in our blood to discuss things. So I think and that's the happy part of our professional lives,
yeah, ma'am.
actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
So where did you go, Raj? Vacation?
So vacation was a short, brief trip to Alapula with my family.
My hometown,
Yes, your hometown.
Kerala.
I was managing a crowd of 12 people, so I was more of a. It was again a doing a task. It was like managing a classroom. It wasn't really a vacation, but it was a good time to bond with the close family members.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing when we take our family, both the pediatric and the geriatric age group. For people who are not healthcare, what we mean by pediatric is managing the children and managing the elders in the family.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so I had been also took a break to visit my daughters in UK, but at the same time I also continued my trip and I attended IMSH, that is the International Meeting of Simulation in Healthcare 2026 in San Antonio, Texas. And I felt really good this time, Raj, because I've been attending it for a couple of years every year, but
Mhm,
this was after a 2 year break. So
mhm.
it felt nice. Presenting two workshops there, and I should tell you, Raj, the whole event was like AI, serious gaming, gamification, and it was full AI. The maximum attendance was everything was in and out of AI. Even the plenary talk, one of the main keynote speakers was talking about AI.
Yeah, it is the next big thing, right? I don't think any simulation concept swept the world of simulation so drastically, such as what AI is doing right now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and you know what? As part of our part two, we were supposed to cover AI gamification and serious games. So I kind of feel we need to dedicate one whole episode on just AI in simulation because, like you said, it's the next thing. Is I think it's the thing now. I won't
it
use the
is
word next thing. It's the thing now. Yeah. So I think we need to cover it in the next episode. So we will not touch about AI in this episode. What do you think, Raj?
agreed, ma'am. And we could probably bring an expert guest over as well. It's about time we had guest speakers on our
Yeah.
podcast. So we do that
Yes,
too.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I think Yeah, that's a good idea, Raj. So we'll try to dedicate the next episode for AI in simulation and try to get, somebody pioneering in our country only who's, kind of doing work on that related to simulation. So that's a great idea. So I think we can move on to then serious games and gamification, Raj.
Sure, ma'am.
You're the expert here. So could you just touch upon that and try to keep it simple for our general audience who do not bring, who are not part of the healthcare community?
Right. So, thank you for that, ma'am. And yes, a serious game and gamifications are two distinct entities within the world of simulation. Uh, to put it simply, in serious games, even though it's looks gamified, but the objective is very clear, and the objective usually involves a patient outcome. It's not just points, or it's not just a leaderboard, or it's not just a puzzle. So the objective of a serious game is in the end a patient outcome. And there are several apps and elements which do serious games. There is an app called Airway X. There's an app called Full Code. There's a game called Full Code. So these games essentially they look like games because they're hosted on a website, and they have elements with a where you can go from level to level and stage by stage. But in the end, the outcome is serious. It's not a joke. It's not a game.
So Raj, what I understood is it's called gamification because like any other game, there is award points. It's competitive and it follows all the gaming principles, and it really suits well for the present generation of our learners. And it is healthcare clinical context, but it is serious because we have set objectives and we have a clear outcome for these games. So hence the serious gaming. That's what I understood. Am I right, Raj?
That's absolutely correct. Correct, ma'am.
Yes, and this time, Raj, strangely at IMSH, along the serious games and gamification, a lot of tabletop simulations, the mobile kind. When we
Mhm.
say mobile simulations, it's more like in the vehicle and all that. But there are various perspectives of these presenters at the IMSH where they also call, mobile simulations as you put all your simulation in a box and you carry it around kind,
Right.
then
Okay.
yeah,
Mhm.
then there was tabletop simulations, okay, with game boards. And obviously you are one pioneering it in our country right now, the escape rooms. And for your
Yes.
last conference, I've heard really good feedback on how we are doing escape rooms.
Thank you.
So
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
also a
Yeah.
part of yeah, that's also a part of serious gaming. And if not an escape room, at least these tabletop kind of finish the puzzle, finish the cues, and then come out. So all this is an exciting and very interesting field, which we can actually take up at future academic events.
Indeed, ma'am. Indeed. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to think about in case we get invitations from societies, these are the things which we can plan.
So I've
So
been
for the
doing a lot
non
of competitive simulation for emergency medicine conferences, ma'am, and
yeah,
I've come to learn that it's a science by itself. Competitive simulation.
yes,
Forget gamification,
yes,
forget serious games, but simulation competitions. That itself is a very elaborate science, and it
very
affects
nice.
the
That
psychology of students much deeper than we actually think. So lots
mhm.
to study in that field, in that realm.
Yeah, so and I think that's a huge gap right now, and
It is.
we can bring out research from our country right now because a lot of research coming out is from the outside our country, and the context. I wouldn't just say cultural context, but the context in such is quite different. Our
Hmm.
education context, our cultural context, and the language involvement. Everything is little different, and I think because I'm a pro simulation research person, I think there's a huge potential there to bring out something from that. So
Indeed,
I
ma'am.
really I think we need to collaborate and work on that because simulation is all about networking and collaboration for new innovative things that need to come out from our country.
Yeah,
Yes.
ma'am.
So now moving on to we've AI, as we discussed, we are going to hopefully bring another episode on that. So we I wanted to touch upon the three basic terms which most of our simulation educators listen to. That is pre-brief, debrief, feedback, dry run, and all that. So I would request our audience, both healthcare, non-healthcare, whoever is interested in taking up simulation, the INACSL guidelines. The INACSL is International Nursing Association for Clinical Simulation and Learning. The INACSL guidelines, and the name being revised now, is Healthcare Simulation Standards of Best Practice. So this is kind of like the constitution and kind of like the Bible of simulation practice, where the standards are mentioned, was revised in 2025. And when you take the definition of a pre-brief from that, pre-briefing is a process which involves preparation and the briefing. So it's like, you prepare the faculty, the instructors, the facilitators, whoever you want to call them, plus the technical simulation technicians and the content expert or the subject matter experts. They do some preparation,
Mm.
and they also brief the learners on the day with the ground rules and what scenario they are going to face, and the expected outcome. So this preparation and briefing is actually the pre-briefing part. And a very good pre-brief or an effective pre-brief ensures that the simulation learners are prepared for this content, and it actually brings in helps to bring in the outcome. So this is something that is called the pre-brief. It's in as simple words that I could say. And this is initially the first part, where the preparation also includes scenario design and preparing your objectives and doing your needs assessment, understanding who your target learners. That's a preparation part. Booking your sim center, trying to know which resources you need, coordinating it with your sim tech, and then the briefing part on what you do on that day, which also includes sending out some reading material or reference materials to your learners, because ideally they need to know what they have to do, because you cannot put somebody in the kitchen and say make an omelette unless you give them a recipe before, or unless you let them know how to operate a stove before. So those kind of things, in simple words, is which includes preparation and briefing. Anything you want to add in the pre-brief part, Raj?
So I like all the points you covered. Most importantly, pre-brief is the anchor of the simulation. It tells the
Yeah.
student what's expected out of them. So it's very important that even the learning objectives are covered in the simulation, so students know what to anticipate. We don't want to have gotcha moments in simulation. We don't want to tell them, "Hey, I
Mhm.
know you didn't know this." That's not what we want in
Mhm.
simulation, right? We want them to reinforce what they already know. So I think it's very important that your pre-brief is as elaborate as possible, and it's
Yeah.
very important that you also follow a structured checklist so you don't miss anything.
Yes, very true. And one more thing is, this is for the simulation educators. We all talk about psychological safety. The learners need to feel safe so that they can actually do an error-driven methodology like simulation. So the psychological safety actually starts from pre-brief. It's not just during the immersion or during the debriefing as such. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is a little bit about pre-brief. Pre-brief itself is a one-day workshop. So
It
now
could also be
moving
a
on.
potential future podcast topic. Yeah.
Yes. With the pitfalls and yeah, what we
Yes.
need to do. And again, like you mentioned, about the learning objectives. So there are two school of thoughts, okay, depending on your level of learners, whether we
Mm.
disclose the learning objectives or whether we don't. That's
Mm.
a huge,
It's a huge
discussion.
debate itself.
Uh,
Yes.
yeah, it's a huge debate itself. So then now we come to the terminology debrief. So debriefing is something which is not just for simulation. We've been hearing the word debrief in, it actually, I think, from army base and military base, when you do your debrief from there. So when we are talking only within the context of post simulation debrief, again, in debrief, you want to do within the simulation quickly, or you want to do a post simulation. So what I'm going to discuss is more of the post simulation debrief, so that it is actually a planned process, and it may include activities of feedback, and basically it is a guided reflection where a skilled facilitator is trying to explore the frame of minds of the students or the learners to know why they did a particular action that was observed by the facilitator, with an aim to allow them to understand whether they did the benchmark action or whether there was a gap in their performance to the benchmark. And the overall goal of this debrief is to close that gap. So they performed in a way, we have set a benchmark based on the standards. So either they have presented performed as per the benchmark, well and good, we want to reinforce that performance, so we have a discussion on that. Or Their performance was well below the benchmark, and we want to explore their mindset through guided reflection on why that gap so that we can close the gap. So, this is as simple as possible for the most commonly used term, debrief. So, Raj, you want to add anything in that?
No, ma'am. I just like to say that debriefing is considered often for even for the experience simulators is the most challenging part of the simulation, because debriefing
Yes,
is driven by the students. It's driven by our learners, not by you. So they have to guide you through
yes.
the debrief. So it's challenging. It's very
Yes,
challenging.
and depending on your different types of learners,
Yep.
we have a lot of literature discussing different methods of debriefing. Basically, a debriefing should have a structure, and there are a lot of tools, methods, and tips and tricks of managing different types of learners, difficult debriefs, challenging debriefs. So, even today, everyone, even expert debriefers, are actually learning, from their experience. So this is regarding the debrief. Now there's always a confusion, like, what is feedback, what is debrief? So in simple terms, again, sometimes it's used, feedback could be a part of the debrief. Okay, but as per medical education, when we talk about feedback to a learner in within the context of skill and simulation based learning, a feedback is usually direct, whereas debriefing is a two-way dialogue or a conversation. Usually, the term feedback is used when we are doing a skill performance. Now, it's a suturing session, and you are holding your suturing needle, your forceps, your scissors. So there is a way in which you need to do, which is the benchmark, and the tutor or the facilitator or your instructor is giving you direct feedback, timely and specific, so that you can improve your performance on what you have done. It's usually that is considered as a feedback, but there are various perspectives. Again, a huge talk on feedback, and there is a term called feed forward. But this is basically, debrief is a two-way process where it's a guided reflection. We prefer the learners to do more of the talking, and we are trying to find out the frame of mind of the learners on why they did a particular action. And whereas feedback is timely, specific feedback to let them improve on their particular specific performance. We are seeing their action and we are telling them how to go about it. So, anything else you want to add there?
No, ma'am. Like even in feedback, there are several methods, like Pemberton method, the sandwich method, and some are
Yes.
suitable for different types of learners. We will do a separate
Yeah.
talk on feedback, definitely.
Yeah, yes, 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 yes. So, what we discussed now as a post simulation debrief and a feedback related to a particular skill performance is exactly like how we are, talking about. One small, simple example is if somebody is using a defibrillator, and, how they handle the placement of the pads. Now, that is something we need to give feedback about. But at the same time, when somebody is using the defibrillator and they are actually communicating with their team leader and their peers, and we want to bring out from the debrief as to why they did a particular action or how much time they took to do the defibrillation, those kind of things, we want to know their frame of mind. We guide that discussion. It's a two-way process, and they know what they did well and they know where they should improve next time. That process is basically debrief. So I hope I've simplified it a little.
Yeah, sure. Yes.
Yeah. So I think these are the three, four terms which we wanted to cover in today's session. And if anybody wants to go back and refer, please go through the 2025 revised guidelines of the healthcare simulation standards of best practice. It's available on the INACSL website and it is on the public domain. And again, for various more terminologies, if you want, please go through the healthcare simulation dictionary, which is the third edition 3.0, which was also released last year. So
I'll
that's
also be
regarding the
linking.
terms. Yes.
I'll also be linking these documents, the Healthcare Simulation Dictionary and the INACSL Best Standards, Best Practice Standards, in the description.
Yes, 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 yes. Thanks, Raj. So I think this was a
We,
short
we,
session.
we have one more terminology I want to talk about, ma'am, because we still have another five
Yes,
minutes, I
yes.
think. We
Yeah,
talked
yeah,
about
sure.
dry runs, alpha run, beta run, things like that.
Yes, thanks for reminding me, Raj. Yeah.
Shall I take that one now?
Yes, yes, please do it. Because that is very, very crucial. A dry run, is the cornerstone of a successful simulation scenario where it'll help us to learn, achieve the learning outcomes. Simulation is a very resource intensive process. So unless we dry run it, the time, the energy, the resources we spend, and if the learners don't achieve the learning outcomes, we have to go back to a instructional design, which includes everything, not just the skill of the facilitators or the resources you have. And most of this instructional design can be tested by dry run. So dry run, dry run, dry run, dry run. Like, we really want to emphasize on the dry runs. So please go ahead with, the dry run, different terms involved with the dry run. Go ahead,
Yes, of
Raj.
course, ma'am. So, like ma'am said, dry run is a test, a very serious test of your simulation, and you won't do a dry run without actually setting things up properly. So, your preparation happens along with the part of the simulation, and dry run is not part of the preparation technically because preparation is still setting things up. Once your preparation is complete, only then you do a dry run. Now, within the dry run, you have two types of dry runs. One is called the alpha run and the beta run. So, alpha run is to test what you want, is to test what you've tried. So, alpha run is usually done by people within the simulation, the technician, the facilitator, the debriefer, and the standard and the simulator participant. So, I'm sorry, ma'am, I almost used the word standard participant and the simulated participant. So, the simulated participant, you, the technician, the people who are involved in the simulation, these are the guys doing the alpha run. This helps you test what you intended for the simulation. Now, for the beta run, though, we bring in people who are similar to our learners. You can bring in residents from your department, you can bring in senior faculty from your department, but you tell them to assume the role of a participant and you tell them, tell us what's wrong with this simulation. Because sometimes your imagination can go only to some extent. You can only imagine and prepare and expect so much. Your student really comes up with some bounces on you sometimes. And for that purpose, beta run really helps because the people who are blinded to the simulation, these are people who've never seen your simulation before, who never anticipate what you prepared for the simulation. They can come up with unique points and tell you what's missing in the simulation. So alpha run, beta run, and then the simulation.
Yeah, perfect, Raj. And it's people like us who've been running these simulations. The things that come out of alpha runs and beta runs is really, even though you've thought of everything, a different thing. As simple as the AC temperature was so cold that
Mm.
it was very uncomfortable standing in that immersive room. As simple as that, your beta run participants will tell you that,
Yep,
which you
exactly.
might not have, which you
Yeah,
might have not even thought of. So things like that really makes your learners more comfortable,
yeah.
physically and psychologically safe to run, because our end goal is, tomorrow, to keep our learners comfortable, so that
Hmm.
our patients will be safe, and
Yeah.
they should be, we need to challenge our learners,
Hmm.
bring them out of the comfort box, but that learning environment should really be, safe and comfortable for our learners. Don't trick them, but challenge them, so that they will get almost a realistic experience of how they should perform when they are exposed to a real patient in a crisis scenario or in a totally remote environment which they've never faced before. So hopefully that's why we all are so passionate about simulation education.
Ma'am, this thing about alpha run and beta run, I'll give you a small analogy and a bit of trivia. So, in journalism circles, in newspapers and
Okay.
in news article writers, whenever they're publishing a very controversial or a investigative piece, they have something called the red team. So, the red team is
Okay.
basically journalists who are not related to this article, who are not related to this news article. They come and try to poke holes into the
Oh,
publication, and they see what they
okay.
can bring out, what is missing, what aspects are missing.
Okay.
So essentially, your beta run is people who can come and poke holes into simulation. They understand simulation, they understand the clinical context as well, and they tell you this is probably what's missing. You can include this, you can change this, you can change that. So red team, beta testing, all the same.
Okay. 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 That's a very interesting trivia, Raj. Thanks for that. Yeah. So I think, Raj, the time is up for today.
Yes.
I
Yes.
think. Yeah. So our plan will be, first of all, like, once again, apologies to our subscribers for the delay. Hopefully we'll try to manage our next episodes on time to at least bring out 1 or 2 episodes in a month. And as promised, we will touch upon AI and simulation next, and hopefully try to bring in an expert guest. So with that, Raj, I think it's time to sign off.
Yes, ma'am. And with that, we're calling this an episode. Hopefully, we are next fortnight. We'll have a next episode on AI with our guest
Yeah.
speaker, our first guest speaker.
Yeah. Yes, and don't forget to click subscribe and share to Simple Raj and Simply Lulu.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.